Hi everyone. So this week, the paper I read was called FrontFace Facilitating Communication Between HMD Users and Outsiders Using Front-Facing Screen HMDs. So HMD stands for Head-Mounted Device. So this is kind of what we're doing in VR Viewfinder. We're trying to find connection between users that can wear VR headset and those who can't. So this was an interesting find. As an overview, FrontFace is an HMD combining eye tracker and front-facing camera, front-facing screen. So front-facing screen reveals user attention. So in the virtual world, if you're seeing it, you'll see eye movements of the user wearing the HMD with virtual world as a background. And in the real world, so if they're not seeing anything through those VR headset, they will show eye movements with a skin background. So in the image, you can see over here, the user's looking down, and on the second image, the user's looking up and does not have a virtual world background. So it means the user is seeing what's happening to him in the real world. Benefits, it communicates the presence to non-HMD users, reveals the HMD user's visual attention. So when you're wearing a VR headset, nobody knows where you're looking, what you're seeing. So this kind of solves that problem. Interactive techniques were proposed, which is basically an interaction between non-HMD to HMD. So tap trigger, hand gesture trigger, and also voice trigger. So the hardware is not basically a VR headset. What they did is a set of VR glasses, two Samsung phones, I think Samsung Galaxy S6, and an eye camera. So the first phone acts as a VR screen. The second phone acts as the front-facing screen, which non-HMD users are seeing. In this article, they call them outsiders, so outsiders to the VR world. And they also 3D printed a case. So the case you see, the black case that holds the two phones, was 3D printed so that all of this can be attached. On the bottom right, you'll see what it looks like. So there is the VR glasses, then two phones, and at one point there's a hook which has the eye camera. So the eye camera is sending data to an external PC, and that PC is sending its data to the front-facing screen that non-HMD users are seeing. Okay. So outsider initiated communication, as I mentioned, tap trigger. So you can tap the front screen, HMD displays the real world environment. So basically, whenever you do something, whenever you tap or you gesture or you voice trigger, so you call the person's name, the HMD device that was showing the user a virtual world that now the user is in the real world. So he exits the virtual world and enters the real world to see what you're saying or to interact with you. That was the idea. They talked about trade-offs. So tap trigger works well when the user is close by because you have to tap on the front-facing screen. And in a public place where people can't hear you, there are a lot of gestures. So it's hard for you to know, for the screen to know that you're trying to say something. Hand gesture and voice trigger both work well when the user is moving. So you can't, you'll have to, go around and, touch the screen. So it's better if you just gesture or voice trigger it. Voice trigger, it also requires a knowledge of users' names. So whenever this study was run, they added the users' names to the Android speech recognition. So you would have to know this user's name to actually use voice trigger. You couldn't just say anything. So voice trigger was useful in group activities where the person needs to be addressed and people know each other. So they conducted a study in a VR classroom where they had to lay out the interior of a living space. They did not mention a lot about the study. It was just that the crosshair at the center of HMD device, you could target furniture. Using the gamepad controller, you could select, orient, and move furniture. They proposed some changes which were proposed by the small focus group they had. So they said that the screen was too small for people to see. So you could use a foldable OLED display tech or augmented to access VR. So what they meant was if the user is moving around in a 3D space, what does a 2D space tell you more than just, what the user is seeing at the moment in front of them. So they wanted to see what's on the right, what's on the left, what's behind, what's above. So that's what the augmented thing was, so that it would be like a bubble out surrounding the user's face that would show you, what's happening on the right and left, what's happening at the below, what's happening above. This was one of the changes they proposed. Then for future studies, they talked about in-game interaction, so direct manipulation of virtual environment. Right now, the VR headset user, the HMD user, is being summoned to the real world. Maybe the real environment user can actually, take part in virtual environment activities and interact with them over there instead of, summoning them. So as I said, the summoning thing is startling the user. So just because you're doing something, that doesn't mean the other users, aware about it. He's just being brought back from the virtual world to the real world. So that was an issue. And also something they talked about is that future studies can also involve facial expressions, because right now it's just a set of eyes. So we're just tracking eye movement. But yeah, that is what they talked about. Well, thank you.